Thank you. It's great to be back at Finovate. This past fall at Finovate, I introduced you to Swipely's turnkey loyalty program for local merchants. It lets any small business reward their customers simply by using the existing credit or debit cards that most all customers already carry in their wallets and that most all merchants on Main Street already accept. Today I want to talk with you about what's new at Swipely and what makes Swipely different. One of the things that we're very excited about that's new is that we've been expanding. In fact, since we last spoke, we've expanded our merchant network into several cities across the U.S., including San Francisco, New York City, Washington, D.C., and Boston. And we have upwards of 500 merchants now participating in Swipely, offering rewards to their customers. But the real exciting thing that's new that I want to share with you today are some new tools that we're bringing to our merchants. And there's three in particular. The first is powerful customer analytics. The second, the ability to send targeted campaigns to your customers informed by those analytics. And third, underpinning all of this, is that we've actually baked payment processing into the core of Swipely's platform so that we can unlock the big data behind every transaction at our Main Street merchants. Now, in order to show you what's new about what we're doing for these merchants, I think it's first important to understand what's old, what the status quo looks like for these merchants today as they access the payment network and all the data that's flowing through the payment network for these local merchants. So if we could go to the computer, please. I'm just going to pull up if you asked a merchant, you said, what does the payment network mean to you? What does it look like? They might actually show you this. And this is pretty embarrassing. This is actually the statement that the typical merchant that we work with is used to receiving. And aside from the commodity that is card acceptance, it's really one of the only tangible forms of value that they get from the payment network. This merchant is a restaurant. They do $1.5 million a year in sales, 70% of which is on credit and debit cards. As you can see, this month they did over $100,000 in credit and debit card sales. And yet, despite spending a lot of money on payment processing, really this is the only tangible thing they see. And if they double-click to try to get more data about what was happening behind all these transactions, unfortunately, they just get more confused. Because even though this data, this transaction data, is some of the most valuable data in the world, it's literally the pulse of commerce on Main Street, and it's the very data that could help that merchant figure out how to grow their business, it's actually obfuscated within the payment network, and it's not being tapped to help those merchants grow. In a lot of ways, payment processing has become a race to the bottom because people are competing over this commodity solely on the basis of price, rather than introducing more value into payment processing. A lot of the innovation we've seen of late has extended payment processing to new markets, so-called micro merchants, through innovations like Square and PayPal and others. But for this merchant, $1.5 million a year in sales, 300 times the size of the average merchant on something like Square. What's the solution for him to get more value from the payment network? This is Swipely's Payment Marketing Manager. And this is where the worlds of payments and the worlds of marketing come together and collide in a really interesting way. We allow our merchants to understand their customers in powerful new ways. We encourage our merchants to enroll their own customers in a turnkey loyalty program. When they do that, they can understand customers in even more powerful ways, such as identifying this customer who literally is on track to come into this merchant 230 times a year, if you can believe it. It's a sushi place, and she's completely addicted. But finding that needle in a haystack of your most valuable customer is one of the most powerful things in a loyalty program. But not every consumer will opt into a loyalty program. And so that's why we're also bringing powerful tools to the merchant, not just from the data we glean from opted-in loyalty members, but from every credit and debit card transaction that passes through that merchant. So one simple example of that is this sales report. Now, for anyone that's operated an e-commerce site, you're probably familiar with looking at dashboards like this one, where it's easy to compare your sales so far over the trailing period to the prior period. One of the features we'll actually be introducing into this report soon is benchmarking, so that the merchants can see how their sales are moving in comparison to other similar merchants in their trade area. But this type of big data has been out of reach for Main Street. Main Street merchants don't have the technology sophistication and, most importantly, the time to log on and push knobs and dials. And so that's why we've built a lot of smarts into Swipely's platform to do that work for them. We literally try to put it on automatic pilot. Let me show you what that means. This is a lapsed customer report for one of our merchants. And this is showing that at this particular business, they have a large number of customers who haven't been in a while. We call those lapsed customers. You can see it's been 60, 90, in some cases over 120 days since some of these customers have visited this particular merchant. And this is a particular merchant is a restaurant, so they'd like to see them more frequently. Now, rather than forcing them to push knobs and dials to figure out what this is worth, we actually put it right up there for them so they can understand. What would it be worth to my business if I could win back those lost customers? And you can see right here, for this business, it's worth over $7,500 to them. And that's real revenue. But rather than asking the merchant to do something they're not comfortable doing, which is constantly logging on and pushing out campaigns and so forth, we literally let them do a one-time set it and forget it, where they literally set up a campaign to re-engage lapsed customers, and automatically those customers will receive an email. It looks like this. It's pretty simple. It says, "We miss you. Please come back. Here's a reward you can load onto your credit card or your debit card if you do so, and if you come back in the next little time window, you're going to get this special offer." Now, what's remarkable about this email, I mean, I know it looks simple, but you know what's remarkable about this? 35% of the people who received this email, 35% converted. That's phenomenal. And all of that incremental revenue drops straight to the bottom line for the merchant. This is just one example in the case of lapsed customer. There are others like time of day, day part analysis, average spend, and so forth. I don't have time to show you today. But this is what happens when the worlds of marketing and payments come together. Swipely is changing the legacy sort of commodity payment processing world into something we call payment marketing. We're helping Main Street businesses tap into the big data behind every transaction so that they can turn their cash register into a marketing machine. So that's what Swipely does, that's what's new, and that's how we're different. Thank you very much.